There is nothing in the federal Liberal budget about cannabis legalization, which is a little surprising since Trudeau campaigned on legalization and the whole world knows it. Legal weed is supposed to be a cash cow for governments. The mantra always has been legalize, tax, and regulate it. Of course, this isn't surprising for any of us who have been paying attention. Justin Trudeau appointed former Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair to head legalization, signifying that cannabis legalization in Canada would be decided by the same people who had enforced prohibition for all these years. But cops shouldn't be in charge of legalization. They should be facing criminal charges, especially now as they continue to bust people for a harmless plant. Bill Blair should be facing criminal charges for more than his history with drugs. Never mind the blatant hypocrisy of going undercover, selling drugs, then busting the buyer, always in poor, mostly minority-dominated communities. This is the man who headed the Toronto Police during the G20 summit in 2010. With over 1,000 peaceful protesters detained, the 2010 G20 summit protests represent one of the worst violations of civil liberties in Canadian history, as Press for Truth documented in our 2010 film, Into the Fire. Despite calls for his resignation, Blair never did step down, even though he knew Toronto Police had no extra arrest powers. He referred all evidence of police brutality to the Special Investigations Unit, a government agency that investigates alleged wrongdoings of government police. Kind of like if Walmart knowingly poisoned people with one of its products, but no one on the board of directors took any of the heat. In fact, they would decide to investigate themselves through an independent Walmart Investigations Unit. In 2010, the Ontario Liberal government had secretly passed an illegal and likely unconstitutional law to detain people during the G20. In a 125-page report entitled Caught in the Act, Ontario Ombudsman Andre Marin said the measure should never have been enacted and was almost certainly beyond the authority of the government to enact. But Bill Blair wouldn't hear it. He refused to address any serious concerns in the report, saying the criticisms referred to the legislature and not the conduct of police officers, which was under his domain. Blair said that videos showing police brutality were tampered with, a claim that he was later forced to retract and apologize over. In his last years in office, Blair criticized former Toronto Mayor and recently departed Rob Ford. This criticism violated the Police Services Act, prompting Councillor Doug Ford to claim that Blair had gone rogue. Blair also fought bitterly to keep the police budget from getting cut, despite how it cost taxpayers $1 billion a year to finance. He actually argued for a budget increase, and he got it. Fortunately, Blair's request that the Toronto Police should have 184 new tasers at an estimated cost of $386,000 was rejected. But even bad publicity is good for business, because Blair would eventually be elected as a Liberal Member of Parliament and crowned Canada's first drug czar. A man that has never smoked cannabis and used to arrest people for it, but only after going undercover and selling it to them. The hypocrisy is strong with this one. In the event that Canadians ever come to their senses and start treating governments and crony capitalists for the criminals they are, Bill Blair has earned a top spot in the Nuremberg trial that these people so rightly deserve.
It's entirely reasonable, and that we would be able to restrict the area around the summit. We have a legislative responsibility to protect that event.
Police are using it. Several people have been arrested. Andrew Beach, an activist, tested the police response and videotaped it.
Within 5 meters of this wall, so please turn left.